that leads to in today's various presentations, I would like to sort of bring you into the world of adult ADD, and it's a very special kind of world, one that is far more complicated than is usually presented in textbooks and the diagnostic manual. Having this condition, this trait, as I think of it, is really a way of life. It's a kind of being. I have it myself. I'm 65 years old, and I'm still learning about it. Its nooks and crannies, and its advantages and disadvantages. And I want to share with you today, from my point of view, the complexity, the richness, the opportunities that are embedded in this trait, as well as tip you off to some of the traps and kinds of trouble it can get you into if you're not aware of that. I often think of this condition as being able to ruin your life or make your life. And my job is to see to it that it makes your life and prevent it from ruining your life. It's a very unusual condition as traits go, in that it can be tremendously advantageous and tremendously disadvantageous. The prisons are full of people with undiagnosed adult ADD, the halls of the addicted and the unemployed and the multiply divorced, the accident-prone, the marginalized, the depressed, way overrepresented by adults who have this trait. But so are the halls of the mega successful. Most entrepreneurs have it. Hollywood is ADD heaven. Wall Street is teeming with people with this condition. People who are spontaneously generative, productive, inventive, creative, sparkly, ebullient, unpredictable. These are the ADD folks. And the trick to it all is to embrace the positive, harness it, marshal it, direct it, own it, and learn how to deal with the negative. I often tell people I don't treat disabilities, I help people unwrap their gifts. And ADD is a gift that is hard to unwrap. As I said, it can be terribly difficult to live with, but as you learn how to do it, it becomes easier and easier. Into the 90s, we were diagnosing females, we were diagnosing adults, and then in the 90s, the brain scan data and the genetic studies really gave this condition a biological basis, where we can say now with 100% certainty, the ADD brain is different. It's different at the level of metabolism, at the level of anatomy, at the level of neurochemistry, and at the level of genetics. This is a highly heritable trait. The odds are if one parent has it, 1 in 3 children will have it, and if both parents have it, 2 in 3 children will have it. Now those are just odds. In my case, I have it, my wife doesn't, but all 3 of our kids have it, and our dog has it as well. So we're not genetically responsible for him, but he's a Jack Russell, and he's as ADD as can be. The 90s really put to rout any responsible person saying this doesn't exist. There are still people out there who say that, but they're ignorant. It's like people who don't believe in dinosaurs or, think the world is flat. Ignorance has its own arrogance that goes with it. The 90s were a wonderful decade in terms of giving ADD and many other conditions in the behavioral sciences a biological basis, where the moral diagnosis now should not exist, at least in the mind of any informed, thinking human being. That leads us to where we are today. The moral diagnosis is far, far superior. The medical diagnosis is far, far superior to the moral diagnosis. But the medical diagnosis has an obvious and glaring problem. What the medical diagnosis emphasizes is pathology. You know, we go to medical school to learn about sickness. You go to the doctor because you're feeling pain. You don't go to the doctor to tell him or her how well you are. You know, so the diagnosis you get from a medical professional is about ways in which you are diseased, disabled, disordered. Well, that's okay if you're talking about your kidney. You can go to the doctor and say, you know, you've got one sick kidney. And you'll say, thank you, doctor, what can we do about that? That's because you don't identify with your kidney, unless you're psychotic, you know. You don't identify with your kidney, but you do identify with your mind. So if you go to the doctor and the doctor tells you you or your child has a sick mind, that's personally devastating. Because when we say I, what we're really referring to mostly is our minds, our bodies somewhat, but mostly our minds. That's who I is. And if you tell someone that their mind is impaired, is sick, you've really reduced them in their own eyes. And that's the problem with the medical diagnosis. It really creates what, in my opinion, are the true disabilities. I have both ADD and dyslexia. I wouldn't trade either one for the world. The true disabilities are shame, fear, believing that you're less than, believing that you're stupid, believing that you can't be all that you want to be. And those become self-fulfilling prophecies. Fear is the great learning disability. Believing you can't is the great learning disability. And now we have evidence to prove that. Carol Dweck's amazing research on growth mindset versus fixed mindset has essentially proven the Henry Ford's dictum that whether you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. If you believe you can't, you won't. If you believe you can, you will. And that's not just the power of positive thinking, or it's the power of positive thinking proven, not simply expounded. And her work is truly groundbreaking. Dweck, D-W-E-C-K, her book on mindset. So my profession, the medical profession, it colludes unintentionally to promote and perpetuate the disability. The whole model of disability, disorder, so on and so forth, is so saturated with feelings of I can't that it leads a lot of people to underachieve. Well-meaning doctors in the best institutions. You go, you get an evaluation, you come out with a 10-page single-space typewritten report that details all the ways in which you are defective, disordered, less than. And the person who does the report is very proud of, look at how I've proven that you're a loser, you know, or that your child is a loser. And they, of course, don't mean it that way. They mean to help you. But it's not terribly helpful to have your nose rubbed in what you're bad at with no mention of what you're good at. That's why we need a strength-based approach. That's why we need a model that says, yes, you have some obstacles. Yes, there's work to be done, but you have tremendous powers that you can tap into. You have tremendous assets that we can take advantage of. That model is the way to go. When I explain to someone that they have ADD, I say to them, you are so lucky. You have a Ferrari engine for a brain. You've got a way powerful brain. But you do have one problem. You have bicycle brakes. So you have trouble controlling the power of your brain. And I say, not to worry, I'm a brake specialist. And as we work to strengthen your brakes, you can win races instead of spinning out on curves. And that really sums up what this condition is all about. Amazing power on the one hand, trouble with control on the other hand. And as you increase control, you can take advantage of directing that power in a positive direction. Another analogy I use, ADD is like Niagara Falls. Until you build a hydroelectric plant, it's just a lot of noise and mist. But when you build that hydroelectric plant, you light up the state of New York.